Okay, well, welcome to the South Sound Story Guild's monthly story swap. And we're running a little bit 20 minutes late, but we've had some great stories told tonight. A great joke. We're sorry you missed them all, but we're going to try to recover and bring you a couple more good stories. So thank you for hanging in. We're going to be have a featured storyteller, an opening storyteller, then a short break, and after that, there'll be open mic. So if any of you out in the hinterlands would like to tell a story, please let us know at the break time. So with that, I'm going to ask Stacy to get up and open our storytelling tonight. Stacy has a 3-year-old kid, and I think she's going to tell us something about telling stories to little kids. Here we go.
Technically, I'm not doing that, but I am telling one of the stories. Oh, I was gonna bring book. 3 seconds. It's one of my favorite stories growing up as a kid that I have gotten to tell my kid. So, let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a donkey named Sylvester. Sylvester lived in Oatsdale with his mother and father, and his most favorite thing to do was look for interesting and unique rocks. He had a huge collection. So one day when he was out looking for rocks, he found the most unique, most amazing rock he'd ever seen. It was brilliantly, fantastically bright red and perfectly round like a marble. He picked it up, put it on his hoof, and was examining it. It's looking, oh, this is so exciting. Gave a little shiver. Well, he was pretty excited about the rock, but also it was pouring rain, so he was a little cold. Oh, I wish it would stop raining so I could really look at this rock. And instantly, the rain stopped. It didn't stop gradually like it usually does. The drops vanished from the sky. The clouds disappeared. The sun was shining. The grass was dry. It was as if the rain had never existed. I wonder if this rock is magic. I've never had a wish get granted that quickly. It's gotta be magic. So I put the rock down and said, I wish it would rain. Nothing happened. Picked the rock back up. Again, said, I wish it would rain. The clouds rolled in, thunder crashed, lightning struck, and rain poured from the sky. This rock is magical. This is my magic pebble. I can have anything I want. My family can have anything they want or need. My friends will want for nothing. He was so excited. He quickly wished for it to be sunny again, and then rushed home. When he got to the top of Strawberry Hill, he was looking at his pebble, contemplating all of the many, many, many things he could wish for. When all of a sudden he heard, from behind the grass, Sylvester saw the most mean and hungry looking lion. He was so frightened. He didn't know what to do. He was all alone on the top of the hill. There was no one around for ages. He stared down at his pebble and said, I wish it was a rock. Instantly, Sylvester turned into the rock. The lion bounded over, smelled the rock. I could have swore there was a donkey here. I was so excited for my lunch. What happened? Nothing. Couldn't smell a lion or couldn't smell a donkey anywhere. The lion grumbled off back home. I guess I'll have to find lunch somewhere. Whew, thought Sylvester the Rock. Well, all right. I wish I was a donkey. But nothing happened. I wish I was myself again. Nothing happened. I must not be touching the pebble. Oh. Sylvester takes a breath and is like, okay, I I can come out of this. I can figure this out. Tries to push and move but I'm a rock. Rocks don't move. Okay. Help. I'm a donkey. I might look like a rock, but I'm a donkey. Come help me. Come help. Rocks don't talk. No one can probably hear me. Oh, Sylvester was very worried. Started feeling helpless and hopeless and didn't know what to do and just started spinning and eventually drifted off into a worried sleep. It was getting later and later in the evening. Sylvester's parents were very worried. Sylvester never misses dinner. Got later and later, and they drifted off to a troubled sleep as well. In the early morning, they woke up and Sylvester still wasn't home. What? Where is Sylvester? Something is definitely wrong. We have to go out and look. So they started by asking the neighbors. Neighbor Pigs next door. Pig. Have you seen Sylvester? No, we haven't seen Sylvester. Try the chickens down the road. Chickens. Have you seen Sylvester? No, we haven't seen Sylvester. We'll ask all the kids. The piglets, the colts, the kittens, the puppies, all of the kids. Have you seen Sylvester? Oh, not since yesterday. He went looking for rocks. They went to the police. The police mounted a search for days. They couldn't find Sylvester. Finally, they asked all the dogs in Oatsdale, please go find Sylvester. They sniffed all the grass. They sniffed all the trees. They sniffed all the rocks, including that really large rock on top of Strawberry Hill that nobody remembered being there, but like it was a really big rock and it I guess must have been there the whole time, but it just smelled like a rock. So we couldn't find Sylvester anywhere. It was months and months, no signs of Sylvester. Sylvester's parents were distraught. They knew something terrible must have happened to Sylvester. Meanwhile, less than a mile away, up on Strawberry Hill, Sylvester, the rock, sat. All he could do was just keep thinking. Couldn't scream, couldn't move. I just kept thinking, what if? What if I had just wished I was home safe? What if I had just wished the lion would disappear? What if I wished the lion was a gnat or a daisy or anything else? So spinning thoughts and just sitting there, Sylvester was awake less and less of the time. Night followed day, day followed night. The leaves turned orange and brown and fell all around the rock. Winter came, the snow covered the rock. Sylvester fell into a deep winter sleep. Spring came, flowers bloomed. And after a rough, long winter, Sylvester's parents said, we need to find some joy. We have to get out into the sunshine. Let's go have a picnic. So they headed up to Strawberry Hill to try and find a little bit of joy. Sylvester's mom said, oh, look at this beautiful rock, and sat down. The warmth of Sylvester's mother woke him from his deep winter sleep. Sylvester was like, Mom, I'm right here. You're sitting on me. I'm on a rock. Dad, you must be here too. But they couldn't hear him. He was still a rock. Tried to push and pull and move and make himself noticed. Couldn't do anything. Sylvester's mom started laying out lunch on top of the rock. It's a nice place for a picnic. They had alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad. His dad wandered around the rock, just aimlessly looking around, and he found a bright red, perfectly round rock. Oh, mother, look at this rock. Sylvester would have loved it for his collection. He put it down on top of the rock. Oh, dear. I just feel like Sylvester is so close. Sylvester's trying to scream, Mom, Mom, I'm here. But nothing is happening. She can't hear him. She finally says, oh, I wish Sylvester was with us. Dad sits down and says, oh, I wish Sylvester was with us too. Sylvester takes a deep breath, resigned that this is what he gets, is just a moment with his parents. Says, I wish I was with you too. And myself again. And instantly, Sylvester is a donkey again. Lunch falls off of his back and he runs into his mother and father's arm. Everyone is so happy and surprised, and he tells the whole story and explains everything. Oh, everyone is so happy. They take the pebble and they head back home. But they put the pebble into the safe. Because right now, they don't need anything else. They have everything that they wanted. Easy.
Well, thank you, Stacy. Great story about my favorite animal, which are donkeys. Anyway. And I guess you need to be careful what you wish for, right? Sometimes it comes and you don't really like it. So our feature storyteller is Elizabeth Lord, who many of you have met before. Elizabeth's right in the beginning, director of a musical that's being put together here in Olympia. Maybe she'll tell us a little bit something about what it looks like so we can sort of anticipate what's coming along the line. And she's going to tell a little bit about early storytelling to youngsters, I believe, also, right? So please welcome Elizabeth Lord. Oh, I'm going to turn off. This is an 8-minute fire, which we have going so that nobody tells stories too long. But if you've been here over 8 minutes, you start getting a hot seat. So I'm going to turn it off.
Okay,
We'll turn it back on when other people come.
all right. Hi,
Hey.
it's good to see all of you.
Good to see you.
I stay away too long.
Yeah.
Every time I'm with you, my heart is gladdened. Well, let's see here. I'm a little spacey today. My head feels a little thick. So wish me luck. Okay, let's see. I'd like to tell you a story. Yeah, great, great. Here's something I know about myself. Something that I have finally come to accept as a truth. It's taken me many years, even decades. And that is that I am absolutely atrocious at putting my laundry away. I own a dresser. I have a closet. And more often than not, my laundry either resides in the laundry basket or it resides on the floor in the clothing pile. The clothing piles usually comprise sometimes of dirty, but sometimes things that aren't so dirty. You might wear again, you know, or clean. The benefits of the clothing pile is that you can see what you own, what is available for that outfit that day.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put your clothes into a dresser, they're hidden, right? You can't see them, locked away in these drawers. In the closet, same problem. So if it's in a pile, that's great.
Yeah.
So consequently, my bedroom has never been technically clean. You know, I'll vacuum around the pile, but the pile will remain. And sometimes it gets out of hand. I've always had this pile. When I left home at 18 to go to school out of state. And eventually my mom did I'm turning your bedroom into an office. Come get all of the things that you want to keep out of here thing that parents do. And I went back and I had to deal with the pile that I had left behind. And while I was putting the items in that pile into bags to be donated, I found 17 dog treats. My mom had a cute little cockapoo named Hamlet. She named all her pets after Shakespearean characters. I called him Hammy. She hated that. But Hammy was given these little treats. And Hammy didn't eat any of them apparently, but found a great place to bury them, which was my clothing pile. You'd think this would have been like, oh, you don't want to have that happen back in your home in your adult world. But no, I continue to have clothing pile in Olympia. And it got bad. To the point where I realized I needed to get rid of it. I needed to make some decisions. No, you're not going to fit into that pair of pants again. It's never going to happen. No, you're not really into that style anymore. That skirt is way too short. I had this cute skirt that was kind of flouncy. It was black, it was cute, but it was like a mini skirt. But I knew that I was probably never going to wear that again. So I sifted through my clothing pile and pared it down, got it smaller and smaller until it would all fit back in my dressers. And I ended up with a big garbage bag full of clothes to go to Goodwill, which I put in my car. I managed to transfer the bag from my room to my vehicle. Did I drive around with it for weeks? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that during this period, one of the best things that ever happened to me happened. And that was, I learned of a job through a friend of mine that works at the Evergreen State College Library, that the Pierce County Library System, which is a surrounding Tacoma area, was hiring a storyteller. That they have the job listing in their HR department, storyteller. And she had learned about it because she's in the library loop. And she told me about it and said I should apply. And I did apply. And I got hired by Pierce County Library System. I couldn't believe it. I had a legitimate professional job that my parents could talk about to their friends. They could definitively say, my daughter works for the Pierce County Library Department. What does she do? She is a storyteller. And it made sense and they understood it. And I was excited. It was a summer storytelling. They do a summer reading program at Pierce County Library, which is a rural library district. It's a driving job where you go from library to library to library to library. It does not include Tacoma. Tacoma has its own library system, the city of Tacoma. So this was it. I needed to look my best. I needed to look like a storyteller. I had been gigging here and there, but now I was going to look like a storyteller. Like, you want to look maybe motherly, non-aggressive, welcoming, yet practical. I owned a pair of clogs, so I was really almost all the way there. And then I had a jumper. I wore this pants jumper item, and I had my perfect outfit picked out, and my perfect shoes, my Danceco clogs. And my first job was to perform a half-an-hour storytelling program at the Steilacoom Library. And I wanted it to be fantastic. I was going to get paid for driving, but not until I passed the county line. But I had to track my mileage and so forth. That morning, very nervous. I drank copious amounts of coffee. I still wasn't in the habit of having breakfast because I didn't think it was important. I drank lots of coffee, was very nervous, and panicked that I would lose my way or somehow not find it or somehow be late or somehow forget what I was going to say. And I drove to Steilacoom, and I got off at the right exit, and I drove into the Steilacoom area, and I found the library, and I parked, and I was the only car, one of two cars in the parking lot. The library was closed. It was just gonna open for this special event. So I sat in the car a moment. I had been given a key card and everything I needed. I was told that I would be greeted by the librarian who was inside the building. I'd go in through the back door and I passed gas. This is good to do this now in the vehicle before you're with some new person you're trying to impress. And immediately I knew I'd made a mistake. I had made a dreadful mistake. I had not merely passed gas. I had made an incredible mistake. And I do what I think most people do in that situation, which is try to preserve the upholstery in your car. So I immediately just like held myself up by the steering wheel and tried not to rest my bum on the seat, which I knew would be a squishy situation. This was not good. This was the result of coffee. I'm certain of it. Or whatever I did last night. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? Oh no, oh no. And I know it is absorbing into the clothing, my perfect storytelling outfit. This is my first day. So I'm not an unintelligent person. I can figure things out. I can problem solve in a stressful situation. So I very carefully, without sitting back down, I undo my car door and I get out and I stand there and I don't really want to make it worse. So I kind of get wide and it's too late. It's coming down the legs. And it is pooling in my clog, which is like a little open canoe, just going in there. And I mean, the only thing I could think is like, shit. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, 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 okay. And so I think, well, I've just got to clean up. So I go to the back of the library. I have my key card. Before I can even use it, the librarian knew I was coming. She opened it. You must be Elizabeth. We're so pleased to have you here. I'm like, do you have a restroom? Oh, that's right. You come from Olympia. You probably really need to. I do. She directs me to the staff restroom, which is a one-holer. And I go, lock the door. And there I stand in front of the mirror. On the wall to my right is a full-length mirror so that librarians can check their outfits, I presume, because they want to look their best in the library. At any rate, I begin to strip off the outfit. I've got to get it gone. I take it all off and I turn slightly. I look like a 28-year-old baby. I'm looking around the room for the giant adult-sized wipes. What sweet hell is this? And I take off my underpants are ruined. I take off the skirt, the onesie outfit thing, and I got it in the sink. Now, I know men have done this, but women have lots of experience of scrubbing clothing out in sinks. Once a month, it can be an issue especially when you're younger. Well, I am scrubbing, I am hand soaping, I am paper toweling, I am bathing, basically, in the restroom. I am washing everything. You okay in there? Oh, I'm fine. And viciously cleaning, rinsing out, wringing out, scrubbing, doing the knuckle washboard. Do you know about that? The knuckle washboard where you can really get in there. So this is me with this garment, and the underwear is a lost cause, as are the paper towels. And I can't flush the paper towels. Everyone knows you can't flush paper towels.
Right.
What do? You got to get rid of them. So I go to the trash and I pull out all the paper towels that are in there. I put my paper towels in the bottom. I put the others on top of my underpants, which are also in there. And then I stand there in my wet clothing. And I realize that it's still stained. It's still, and there might be an odor.
But who knows?
And then the bag of clothes in the car. The bag of clothes in the car. I come out of the bathroom and I say, excuse me, I've forgotten something in the vehicle. Oh, okay. Well, you know the program. I do know. I do know the program Star Trek. And I go back out to my car and I open up the trunk and I open up the bag and I rummage through their pants, jackets, old scarves, going through, and there it is. The skirt. The cute little mini. Perfect. I get the cute little mini and I get a sweater. It's June, but it seems to match. I grab these items, I go back into the library, go back into the one-holer restroom. I change into my new outfit, a mini skirt and a sweater. And no underpants. The librarian shows me to the meeting room where the storytelling program will take place. At the appointed time, the children and families begin arriving. This is a popular program. The room fills with 30-odd children and parents and me in a chair with little ones on the floor. And I make a promise to myself. Say, Elizabeth, you need to imagine that the super glue has been placed between your two knees. And at no time will those two legs come apart. And so I sit coquettishly on the chair, legs sealed together. So it's the Little Mermaid going back into the water, sealed. And I tell them stories. And I tell them another story. And I tell them a third short story. And they loved it.
Yay.
The librarian's like, wow, that was really wonderful. Thank you so much. I said, you're welcome. And I made a good impression. I did it. She didn't ask about my weird outfit. She didn't question any strange lingering odor. And none of the children, nor the parents of the children, were offended by anything that I had done or not done. And I went on to work for Pierce County Library System for 3 years. And I got to see families come back year after year and watch the children grow. Later, some of those same children moved to Olympia and came to the shows that I performed for adults. And they remembered back when they used to sit on the carpet and listen to me tell folk tales. Someday they'll hear this story too. Thank you.
Before you go,
Yeah.
no, thank you. You said you were gonna talk about storytelling to kids. Did any of us actually anticipate this? I don't think so. So thank you.
Oh, yeah,
What
good.
a great story.
Yeah.
But now while you're up here, can you
Yeah.
tell about the project you're working on right now?
Yes, there's a local a band that I'm quite enamored of named Nightmare, spelled like the mayor of a town. A couple years ago, I was in a musical they did, and this year they're writing a new musical theater piece that is about a dinner party. It's called Crazy Dinner, and in it we'll have various musical numbers with food animated. And singing and dancing. It should be quite silly. I'll be directing it, and it opens in May in at the Wild Child Performance Space. Yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward
Yeah.
to seeing it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, I'm always surprised about stories take a strange twist. I think this one's going right to the top of the list. Thank you very much. So, we're just about at break time. So what we can do is take a short break now, and then we'll come back for a story swap. And we'll be leading off with Joe McHugh, who's going to be telling us a story, I think, for the first time here. So we look forward to it, Joe. Thank you. All right. So in about 10 minutes, the bell will ring, and at that point, it'll go quiet again. We'll all be ready to listen. Thank you.
Oh, gosh, that is a disaster.
Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. So what an exciting evening of stories, right? So Joe McHugh is gonna come up and tell us a great short story. And Joe, I've got the fire on here, like I said, 8 or 10 minutes, but you know, if you need to go longer, we can finish it up next
I'll
month.
be all
Okay.
right. It will be. And I will apologize. I don't know what happened when I was sitting back. I'm a little out. I think when it rains a lot, I get an allergy. And hopefully it will clear up. Adrenaline, right? Well,
Here we go.
I shouldn't say this. Let's get that. out.
Back up about a couple feet. There you go.
How are we doing? All right. Oh my gosh, okay. Well, I didn't know what kind of story. There's personal stories and funny stories and things that I do like to tell. But when it's a rainy night like this, you know, a ghost story, you just gotta do a ghost story. So I'm gonna do one I heard years and years ago. I've told it for many years. I got it from the first person I heard his version was Chuck Larkin, who's passed away, and he was from Georgia, a great storyteller. And it's about John and Elvira. And John and Elvira, they had a little farm, a dairy farm pretty much. And they got along pretty well for a lot of years, but finally, if you've ever been a dairy farmer, which I never have been, you never get to go anywhere, and it's really a very difficult thing. You know, the cows demand you. Well, one day, John said to his wife, said, Marcy says, I think we should just give up on this. I mean, Elvira, he said, Elvira, I think we should give up on this whole thing. Our son's grown up, you know, he's got married and set up housekeeping. Why don't we just give him the whole farm, all the cows, all of it? And we'll take a little bit of money we've saved up and we'll buy us just a little place, maybe an acre of ground, a garden, and everything will be just fine. She said, that sounds good to me. So that's what they decided to do. You know, very reasonable. Well, they would go out on Sundays after going to church and they had a little track horse wagon, and they'd go out through the countryside looking for a place that they could buy. But people didn't really build houses that much. And if you did, it's usually for your own kids. It was hard to find a place. It wasn't like today. And they'd go along and finally they got out some country. They really didn't know where they were because John wasn't good with directions. And he's going along and it started raining and storming just like this. And Elvira got so disgusted with John. John said, you know, you got us out here and you're lost. I know how to get home. I'm sure you don't know where we are at all. The next farmhouse we come to, you just go up there and ask him if we can spend the evening or the night until the storm passes. All right, Elvira, don't get all upset. Don't tell me to get upset, you know, that sort of thing. And she's getting soaked. And you're going along, and just then there's a flash of lightning. And in that flash of lightning, they see a big 2-story farmhouse up on the hillside. She says, that's the one, you know. So he turns the buggy up the little dirt drive they've got there and gets up in front of the place, and there's not a light. None of the windows. Looks like somebody had, you know, nobody lives there at all, but it's got a very strange feeling. The water's pouring off the roof of the porch. And John says, Elvira, you go knock on the door, see if anybody's there. I'll go put the buggy away in the barn. She didn't care. She got down, she sloshed through the mud, got up on there, she bangs on the door. Nothing. Bangs again, nothing. Reaches down, takes the door hand, turns it, opens it up. This is Elvira, and John's putting the buggy away, and we're not robbers or nothing. Can we come in? We're awful cold. No sound at all. No answer. Well, then she looked down the hallway and she saw there was a door ajar, just that much, and there was a flickering light in that crack where the door was open just a bit. And she was so wet and miserable, she just started right down the hall. I said, we're not robbers. We'll wait for you whenever you want to join us. And she went down to that room and she opened up the door and walked in. There's nobody there, but there was a fire burning. And she went right over to it and stood next to her. Oh, she's so cold. She was soaked. And the steam almost started rising up off her dress. She didn't get warm. And then she heard John come in. She turned around and said, John, this is pretty nice. And she could not. It wasn't John at all. It was a great big tall man, at least 6 foot, in black, big old black coat or something. And he didn't have no head at all. And she looked at him and her heart was pounding. And it said, Elvira, you're welcome here, and I won't harm you none. She grabbed the edge of her dress, and that's very nice. You get scared to death of it. And in comes John, and he's beating the water from his hat, so he's not even looking where he's going. He walks right by that thing, walks into the room, said, Elvira, who you talking to? She couldn't believe it. She said, look. He turned around and saw that headless man. And he said, Elvira, what you talking to the headless man for? She said, I'm not, it's talking at me. And it said, John, this is my house, and I won't harm you none. And they didn't know what to do. They wouldn't go by it again. It could just reach out and get you. And then it started telling them a story. A story. And the story was how it had lived in that house as a human being, I guess, for years, and had made a good bit of money. Maybe on oil and gas, I don't know. It was up in the mountains. And then when he got way up in years, he hired a young person, what we today call caregivers, to come and help him with the house and the chores. But he was a mean young man. He only wanted one thing, and that was my money. Oh, I knew it. We'd sit at the dinner table at night, and he'd say, oh, man, where's your money? Because I had it hidden. Where's your money? I wouldn't tell him. He hadn't worked for his mine. One night I'm laying in the bed sleeping. And that young man come down the hallway with a meat cleaver. And he walked into my room in the dark, and I was asleep. And don't jump. Because he took that meat cleaver, Rich, cut off my head. And then he took my head and he carried it down into the cellar and he buried it. And I've waited all these years for someone to come to my house and go down into the cellar and dig it out and get it back for me, because I can't go to my eternal rest till I get my head back. And John said, I'm a Republican. I have no idea why he said it. It just popped out like that. But he wasn't going to go down nobody's cellar looking for no head from some dead man. He just wasn't going to do it. And the ghost stepped back from the door like he was free to go. So he pushed Elvira. So Elvira, she walked by like this. You know, that hair in the back of your neck kind of stands up. It's like electricity going by that thing. And she got down the hall. She was heading for the door, boy. And then John had to go by. So he starts to walk by that ghost, expecting it to reach out for him. But all that thing did, and I don't know how it could talk without a head, but it came out of that hole there. It said, John, he never did find my gold money. Well, I stopped John right there, you know. He was scared, but he liked money. He said, you mean it's hidden here someplace? It is, and I will tell you where it is if you find that head of mine. I don't need money now, but I do need that. I understand. He said, Elvira, come back in here. We're going to look for that fool thing. Oh, she said, I don't think that's a good idea. Elvira, trust me. Famous words, trust me. So she came back in. And then that ghost, or whatever you would call it, came over to the fireplace. And there was a kind of almost hidden door built into the, and it opened it up. And there was a narrow, more like a ladder than stairs, down into the cellar. And John went over and looked down there, and it was as black as a stack of black cats. You couldn't find anything down there. And John said, look, I'd love to help you. I really would, but how am I going to find a head down there? The ghost goes over to the fireplace, pulls up his hand, and cracks off one of his fingers. Oh, my God, that about got Elvira. She almost threw up. And he went and lit it in the fireplace like a taper and gave it to John for a light. And before they could stop him, he cracked off a second one, lit it, gave it to Elvira. So now they both had a candle or something. And they went down the stairs, one after the other. And they got down to the bottom, and right down there at the bottom, there was a big humped up kind of place where the dirt had been humped up, because, you know, that young fellow was pretty lazy. That must be where the head is. So John saw a shovel there. So he gets the shovel and he hands the finger to Elvira. She held him up like this for light. He's scared half to death. He pushed the shovel in thinking, you know, that ground be packed down hard in the cellar would be, but it wasn't. It was loose. And that shovel went in just as easy as a knife into butter summertime. And he shook it. and the dirt fell away, and there on the shovel, looking at him, was a human head. And it still had the hair, the eyelashes, the skin, just like the night had been cut off. And he said, Elvira, you reckon that's it? She said, God knows that's gotta be it. So he reached and took hold of it by the hair. And she went first with the candles or fingers or whatever they were. And he come up out of them stairs. And that thing now was standing across the room where you are. And he said, Ghost, is this your head? And the ghost said, I don't remember being that short. Is this your head? Held it up, you see. And the ghost come over, took that head. And I don't know how them gears come together, but suddenly even the mouth was working. It didn't look good, but it worked. And then he told them that there was a sycamore tree in the front yard. If they were to stand at that tree at first light of morning and walk 20 paces towards the rising sun and dig in the ground, they would find his gold money. They didn't know if that was true or not, because then he just started walking down the hallway towards the front door. You're glad to see him go. And then he just sort of faded, or he got real thin like, but it wasn't like, he just sort of dissolved away. Elvira went, ew, that was, for some reason that got to her, the way he did that. Well, all night, they didn't go to sleep because they want to be awake at sunrise. And they were talking all about the ghost, you know, as you would. Oh, you know, the fingers and all that stuff. And then morning, first light, they're out there with that shovel. You got that sycamore tree. What, how many steps did I tell you? 20, I thought you were listening. So walked right out there, you know, and they dug down in the ground. And after a while, they hit something hard down there and they scraped around, pulled it out. And it was a big iron strongbox like they used to have. Opened it up and it was filled with gold coins. And they were about the size of my thumbnail. And I think they were $20 gold coins, that size, filled with it. And there was a piece of paper with it, old-fashioned writing, you know, where the S's look like F's and all that business. And it was the deed to that property. Nobody had paid the taxes. Everybody knew it was haunted. Nobody go near the place. So for a very little money, they paid the taxes. They owned it clear, free and clear. And they had that money. They gave the house and the farm, the old farm, to the son. And they were free to travel anywhere they wanted. Go places like Acapulco and St. Moritz, you know, the famous place where rich people live, Olympia, Washington. I hear that's all thanks to the ghost who'd lost his head. That's an old story. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That was an excellent story. We're glad you came tonight and told some stories. We hope you'll do that again. So normally after the break, we have a little commercial announcement. So I'll run through a few of those right now with some things coming up. Let's see. On March 17th, up in Clallam County, Will Horniak is going to be telling stories in the evening, March 17th. If you go to Clallam Story People of Clallam County, you'll be able to find out when that's going on. And the next day on the 18th, during the afternoon, he's actually going to be having a workshop. And I believe they're free. So check with the folks up there if that sounds interesting to you. The next thing that comes along is March 20th here at the McLean Grange out on the Delphi. There's going to be a storytelling event at 7 o'clock in the evening. And what's really exciting about this, we've got about 6 of our storytellers who will be telling stories there to a mixed audience. So we hope you'll come and listen to that.
What's that?
Pardon me?
What days?
March 20th.
March 20th.
Friday. Friday, Friday, 20th.
March 20th. You better be there because Jerry's telling a story. So anyway, let's see. The next thing that comes after that is Story Oli on the 17th, which is a Tuesday, at 6 p.m. at the Brotherhood's Tavern. And the sort of the title is going to be anything to do with a hot mess.
Yeah.
Something from your personal life, 3 minutes to do with a hot mess. So, yeah, be there early if you want to see. Otherwise, you stand, you can still have a beer. Let's see. Then let's see, coming up after that, we've got in April on the 11th, our normal storytelling time is actually going to be held over at Traditions Cafe and the Soul Food Cafe. Traditions Traditions, store.
Not April.
April's here.
I'm sorry.
Still here.
Sorry, I'm gonna get fired. April 11th, Ingrid's gonna be here talking about the Shackleton excursion. And so Ingrid's an expert on that, and she's down here from Homer, Alaska. Then on, let's see, May 11th, Eva Abram will be our feature teller and Toby will be opening. We're looking forward to that. And then in June, at the Soul Cafe, that's gonna be Will Horniak on June 10th. The restaurant opens at 5:30, and we say if you'd like to come to that, you can reserve a table, which is kind of nice. The stories start at 7 o'clock. Be there, and we look forward to seeing you all. So is there anything I've forgotten or? No, is that good?
Great.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, go to our website, which you saw up there, and if you want to donate money to keep us in operation, please feel free to do so. And with that, we'll get on to some more stories, and I think tonight Maggie's up next with a story for us, so Maggie.
Okay. This is a folk tale that comes from Liberia in West Africa, and it's sometimes called "Which is the most important body part?" So, way back in the beginning of time, Yahweh, the sky god, created the human body. He created all the body parts: the head, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the teeth, the hands, the arms, the feet, the legs, the heart, and the stomach, and all the rest. And he gave each body part its own specific job. The head was to think, to plan, to decide where to go get the food. And the eyes were to look, to see, to go find the food. And the feet and the legs were to stand firmly on the ground and then go walk to get the food. The hands and the arms were to hold, to touch, and to gather the food and cook the food. The eyes would supervise, the nose would smell, the heart would beat a steady rhythm, and the stomach would rumble and tumble and grumble and take that food and process it and send the nutrition to all the body parts, each according to its need. And Yahweh made stomach the king of the body. And everything worked fine for quite some time. All the body parts did their jobs, and they were all happy, content, well satisfied. But you know, over time, the body parts began to see what was going down. And they were like, wait a minute. Mouth was the first one to speak up, and Mouth goes, this is not fair. King's stomach grabs all the food right away. I don't even hardly get to taste it. And Eyes were like, oh, at least you get to taste it. We only get to see it. We never get to taste it. That's not fair. King's stomach should share. And Feet were like, what are you talking about? We never see it. We never touch it. We never taste it. All we do is walk to it. All the body parts complained and complained. They decided they would talk to Yahweh. And they did. And they told him, look, King's stomach takes all the food. We never get to taste it. We want a king that won't be greedy. We want a king that'll be fair. Yahweh listened. He was disturbed to hear this. He said, all right, you get together, body parts, decide which one would be king. I'll return in 3 days' time. You can tell me of your decision, but between now and then, let not one bite of food pass your lips. All the body parts thought that was a great idea. Yeah, we're not going to let King's stomach have any food. He'll see what it's like not to get to taste the food. Yeah, we'll show him. And so they started discussing who should be the new king. And they talked and talked, discussed. And this discussion turned into debate. They debated back and forth and forth and back. Then it turned into argument. They argued who should be the new king. They couldn't decide, and the night gobbled up the day. And the next day came, the second day. And now the body parts, they were so hungry. Oh, well, they couldn't really talk. They couldn't decide. They couldn't agree. They couldn't decide at all who should be king. And the second day came and went. The morning of the third day came, and now they weren't just hungry. They were weary. They were so hungry. They were weary. They were so weak. Oh, they couldn't think. They couldn't decide. They couldn't agree. They didn't know what to do. Finally, Mouth said, oh, you know, Eyes, why don't you be king? We got to have a king. Eyes, you do it. And Eyes were like, oh no, we can't be king. Well, we're just too tired. We're too hungry. We can't see clearly. A king should be able to see clearly. Oh no. Feet, you do it, Feet. Feet were like, oh no, we can't do it. A king should stand firmly on the ground, and we're too weak. We can't stand. We can't do it. No, no. Head, you do it. Head was like, oh no, I can't do it. I'm too confused. A king should think clearly. I can't do it. No, none of the body parts wanted to be king. They couldn't do it. Finally, Mouth said, but we got to give up. Look, everything worked better when Stomach was king. Let's just let Stomach be king. They all agreed. Yahweh came, and they told him, oh, we realize now El worked better when Stomach was king. He should just be king. And Yahweh nodded and said, body parts, can you get together and make a good hearty stew for King's stomach? And so the body parts pulled themselves together. Head started thinking and planning, and feet and legs walked to get the food, and hands and arms gathered the food and they chopped it up, and eyes supervised, and nose smelled, and when the stew was ready, hands fed it to mouth, mouth took it in, teeth grinded it up, throat swallowed it in, stomach started rumbling and tumbling and grumbling, sending that nourishment throughout the body. And it didn't take long. It didn't take long at all before toes began to wiggle and feet began to tread and legs began to dance, hips began to sway, arms began to twirl, fingers were snapping, head was popping with ideas, eyes were sparkling, mouth began to hum a tune. Heart was beating a steady rhythm, and King's stomach was rumbling, rumbling, and tumbling. And then King's stomach let out a satisfying belch.
Thank you, Maggie. I'm hungry now. Let's see. So I think Mitch is going to tell a story now, and so I'll bring it over here, Mitch. And we'll adjust the camera. There we go. Nice and all.
Lights and all, lights, camera, action. So this is the war.
Oh, yeah, you're really gonna be.
No, we're gonna turn it down because he's gonna be.
I'll be all right.
Let's see.
I'll survive a little heat. I can take the heat. Take it, take the heat, you'll like it. Am I crooked?
There you go.
Do I need to sit like this?
Look at it yet. Thank you, John.
Stop moving?
There you go.
Oh. All right, do I look as good as I'm ever gonna? All right.
That's good.
All right. I had a story already and I'm gonna tell it still. But a guy walked in at the very end. My roommate, my once roommate, once and former roommate Scott was my second roommate in when I came to Evergreen. Now I moved to Olympia from Moses Lake, Washington. And that's, as you may or may not know, quite a conservative part of our state. And one of the coolest things when I came was my first roommate at Evergreen was a guy named George. And he was a really great guy. He was real friendly, took me right in, showed me around Evergreen, showed me some really cool stuff. And one of the coolest things, though, was he was bisexual. It was my first time meeting someone bisexual, and so every so often he would go on dates. And for the first time in my life, I got to ask my roommate, was it a boy or a girl? And it was different, you know. He was truly bisexual, and it was interesting. And so when I went home that summer to hang out, because I came in spring quarter for Evergreen. But anyway, when I went home for summer, I spent the entire summer saying my roommate's bisexual. And it was just a fun thing to say to all the conservative people in Eastern Washington. And they were like, ooh, ah, you know, and they were impressed. And then Thanksgiving came along, and George had moved to China to teach English. And I found my friend Scott was my roommate, and we decided it was either Christmas or Thanksgiving, but you know, one of those holidays. We decided that we were going to go over to Eastern Washington, and so I brought Scott, my roommate, and I kept saying to everyone, "This is my roommate. This is my roommate. This is my roommate Scott. This is my roommate Scott." And Scott had to keep going around. I found out much later that Scott had to say, "Not that roommate. I'm not that roommate. I wasn't that roommate." So, yeah, that was fun. No, the real story I wanted to tell tonight was one that I've told I learned a long time ago when I first found the Story Guild. I started telling family stories that I had grown up with. And I wanted to learn some news stories. I wanted to learn some stories. And so at the library one day, I got onto one of the little databases and I found this little magazine called Storyworks. And I don't remember what month, and if you really want to know, because it is copyrighted, and if you really want to know, I'll look it up for you. But it was a little story, a little magazine, and what they had done is they had a contest, and the kids got to write in a character. They described a character, and then they got paired with a published author. And the published author and the kid worked together, and they came up with a story, and that was what was published. One of the winners wrote about this kid named Jimmy Magoo. And so this is my version, as far as I remember it, because it's 2026, and that was 2007. But anyway, this is the myth of Dancing Jimmy Magoo. Now, first of all, when we say dancing and we say Jimmy Magoo, they don't go together. Jimmy Magoo was a terrible dancer. What he did, well, you know, whenever you put music on and Jimmy Magoo was there, you could see his legs start to shake, you know, but it wasn't to the beat.
No, no, no. Not only that, his other arm would start to shake, and it was to a different beat than his leg and a different beat from the music. And pretty soon his whole body was going in all kinds of contortions. And you only knew that he was dancing and not hurting himself because he was smiling and happy. He loved it. Dancing was his favorite thing in the world, even though he was terrible at it. He was the worst dancer ever. Now, all of this was happening in a small town in Ohio. And Ohio had a strange thing. They had a strange custom in that state. They would have a state dancing competition. And everyone, all of the cities would have and towns would have to send someone. But you could not just send your best dancer. You had to draw a person who lived in your town's name out of a hat randomly. And so Jimmy's town dreaded the day, this was the day that they pulled Jimmy Magoo's name out of the hat. And they said, oh, we're going to lose for sure. And it was, who knows? Well, of course, everyone was interested. And as soon as everyone started complaining that Jimmy Magoo was representing the town, news started to, people started to talk and hear about, what this kid loves dancing, but he's terrible at it. And yet he's going to represent this town at the state dancing competition. Well, eventually the newspapers heard about it, and they sent reporters, and reporters started to swarm. And this one reporter was really intrepid. I like that word for reporters. I don't know why, but anyway, he went everywhere, and he said, "Is it true Jimmy Magoo can't dance?" And they're like, "Oh yeah," and they all described it the same thing. The foot would tap. He'd get a little grin on his face, and then his arm would start to shake in the other direction, and his leg would shake and his head would bob, and arms would go all over the place. But they really loved that he was dancing. He loved it. And everyone said, "Oh no, he loves dancing. He's just terrible at it. It's the worst thing we've ever seen. It's scary sometimes to the smaller children." And there he was, the reporter, this is all he heard. And then he started realizing, you got to figure out what's going on, like why. And so he would ask people why, and they're like, "I don't know, it's just the way Jimmy is." And that was his answer. Well, every single person, "No, that's just the way Jimmy is. That's just the way Jimmy is." Gosh, I had never thought about that. I think he's just always been that way. And then finally he was at a bar, and he was just kind of drinking a little too much and talking a little too loud. And he said, "Why? Doesn't anybody know why Jimmy dances so terribly?" And the bartender goes, "Geez, buddy, you could just ask." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I knew his mom when Jimmy was a baby. His mom had the weirdest job." And the bartender and the reporter goes, "What? What? Tell me. I've been looking all over to figure out." And so finally, the story came out. It turns out Jimmy's mom was in the music industry on the legal side. And it turns out that there's some weird laws in the music industry. And one of them had to do with rap songs. So that the kids didn't break their necks by going too much one way or the other. There was only so many yos that you could put in a rap song. Otherwise, they would sprain their neck. At 23, I think it was, you would strain your neck and it would pop the wrong way. I don't know. I don't understand these rules. They just said you can only have 23 yos in a rap song. Well, now this was also Ohio. And so his mom got the job of counting the yos in rap songs, and she got really good at it. She could count them really fast. Nope, that's 24. No, that song's out. We gotta cancel that one. And or send it back and tell them to take a yo out somewhere. Anyway, when she had Jimmy, she needed a little more money. And that's when she found out that there's another law, very similar, but from a different genre, to prevent mass depression In a country song, you can only say crying so many times. If you cry too much in a country song, you're dead. You're gonna die. The whole country, you think economic depression is bad. You should see a wave of emotional depression across an entire country. No, we couldn't ever have that. And so same thing. She would count the crying in the country songs. Now, she was one of those strong and wonderful women who we would call a multitasker. And she was really good. She got so that she could count crying in one ear and yo in the other ear. Now, she did this by having two MP3 players, one in each pocket. And she had one of those wired headphones plugged into each of those. And she would put the country music in here, count the yos, or count the crying. She would put the rap music in here and count the yo, 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 yo. And that was it. I don't know if any of you remember those wired little earbuds that you would have, but that means there was another earbud dangling down to, well, it turned out that was where she was carrying Jimmy most of the time as he was growing up. And so right there next to his ears, he grew up with country music and rap music playing at the same time. He didn't know anything about counting yos or anything like that. He didn't know anything about music. He just grew up knowing that he loved music and he loved to dance. One arm going this way, the other arm going this way, one leg, head smiling the whole time. Woohoo! I love dancing. Well, that's what he did. That's what he did. He took that all the way to the state competition. And if this was a fairy tale, he would have won, of course, just for his joy of dancing. But no, on the way home, his mom was trying to console him, or thought she needed to console him, really, because she said, "Jimmy, you lost. Are you okay?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, Mom." And she said, "How are you okay?" And he said, "But Mom, I got to dance. I was so happy to dance." And the bus driver, not knowing what he was starting, heard him talk about dance, and so he turned the radio up a little, let him start to hear that beat. And sure enough, his head and his legs started going one way, and his body went the other way. He was smiling, danced for everybody on that bus, and pretty soon everybody else got up and started dancing. Most of them were trying to show him that this is how you dance, I think, but really, they just had a great time, and Jimmy was happy because he was dancing again.
Thank you, Rich. That's right. All right. Well, gee, we learn a lot through our stories, don't we? I mean, what a variety we've had tonight. And does anybody, Brett, on chat said they want to tell from Zoom?
You could say, raise your hand if you want to tell a story.
I think then we're going to probably have a story wrap with John, who's going to tell us a story, and it's going to be about Star Hill game tonight, John. Great, we always look forward to that. So here's John with a story from the Star Hill game.
Can I go outside and play with Spit and Bingo, Mom? It's not quit raining, and I promise I won't get in my puddle. Okay, Donnie, but be home before your dad comes home, because we're gonna have dinner and play games tonight. Promise me you'll remember that. I'll remember that, Mom. Now you gotta remember, a 6-year-old boy's memory is only 2 minutes on a sunshiny day. And it doesn't sunshine in Juneau too often. I was gonna go down and meet Spit at his house, and then we were gonna go down to the chicken yard. Chicken yard didn't have any chickens. Now, when my dad was a little boy, it had chickens. The nuns from the St. Anne's Hospital, which was just a block away, raised chickens and raised eggs, and they'd feed the patients. But they all died. The chickens. Well, there was Spit. He wasn't home. He was out in my pile, just stomping his feet. I said, "What you doing, Spit?" "Nothing." can I come in? Your mom said you're not supposed to play in a mud puddle, Johnny. Yeah, but I will rescue you. How are you gonna rescue me? From drowning. Come on in. So I got in, and we're in there, and we're getting our pants all wet and our shirts all wet. And Spit says, you know, I got a new pair of boots. And the only way you can tell they leak is you gotta fill them full of water. I said, okay, let's get them wet. So we got his wet and mine wet, and they're all full of water. And he said, hey, we gotta go down and see Bingo. He's waiting for us in the chicken yard. So we sloshed down there. You heard those boots when they're full of water? We went down the chicken yard, and there was Bingo in the biggest mud puddle area. He could have put a boat in there. And he was in there like this, swishing that water back and forth. Come on in, guys. Let's make the water like the ocean and get white caps. So we jumped right in, and we're getting that water and it's swinging back and forth. Now we got water pulling down our heads, our shirts, our pants. You dummies are getting me all wet. You guys want to go ring the bell at the hospital? Yeah, let's go. Now the hospital main entrance was on 6th Street. The basement was on Gold Street. So what we would do is ring the one up there or down in the basement. And when a penguin, Sister Mary Ellen, would run down there and answer that, we'd run up on 6th Street and ring that one. And then she'd run back upstairs inside, and then we'd run down. Oh, we had it all figured out. Now, Sister Mary Ellen was not a very nice lady to little boys. She carried a 6-foot ruler. I knew that because Jumbo, he was a blue boy. He went to their school, and he said she'd reach across the room and smack his knuckles if he did something wrong. Well, we got to the basement door, and I said, Spit, it's your turn. No, I did it last time. It's your turn, Johnny. You guys are chickens. It's my turn. I'm doing it. Bingo walked up, rang that buzzer. We ran like Kevin all the way up to 6th Street, across 6th Street to the big doors. I said, let me get this one. I pushed the button. Ding dong. It was just like a church bell. Ding dong. You could hear it downtown. We started running back. We wanted to go push that button one more time in the basement. We ran across 6th Street. Down Gold Street. We were running. Bingo was in front. Spit behind him. Me behind Spit. Our boots were full of water, so we're moving fast. The penguin was out taking all the area of the street and the sidewalk, standing there. She had outsmarted the Star Hill gang. She was standing there like this. Well, Bingo couldn't stop. He ran right into her, kind of like a cannonball off a diving board. And they wrapped up into her black coat, and they went down the street like this. And it looked like kind of like a bear was rolling down there. And white stuff was flying all over out of the things. We ran on by them because we couldn't help. Our boots were too heavy. We went all the way down to 4th Street. We turned the corner and we stopped and get her. See if the penguin's coming. So Spit went up to, he said, no, penguin. But we could hear her yelling. These weren't words I don't think you heard in church. They were a little higher. But there was Bingo. He said, Bingo's coming down. He just passed the taxi. Bingo, come around the corner. And he was running. He came up and he says, you think she saw us? No, Bingo, you ran over her. I don't think so. But we kind of like to know, what was it like under that black coat? And he turned all red and he wouldn't talk to us about it. Well, I said, look over there. The Episcopal Church has got a big mud puddle. Oh, we all got excited because we ran so fast, our clothes were dry. Let's go. Now there's one thing in Juneau that's better than a dry pair of pants, and that's a fresh mud puddle. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Well, Star Hill Gang has always got another story, so thank you for doing it. And I think that brings us to the end of the evening. I'd like to thank, first of all, everybody coming here to listen to these stories, which we really need listeners. And thank you to the opener, and thank you to the feature teller, and thank you, Joe, for coming and joining our group and telling a story. And the rest of you are normal storytellers. Take my hat off to you. I'm always amazed. So I think the next things coming up are, don't forget, Hot Mess, 6 p.m. Brotherhood on March 17th, Storioli. And then the 20th, which is a Friday, I believe, McLean Grange, 7 o'clock. Jerry, Maggie, Toby,
What's the other event called?
just McLean Grange. I don't think there really is a name, is there, Jerry?
Yeah, there's no real fee for the system.
It's,
Big story.
Potpourri of Tales.
The McLean does something every Friday. The Grange does something.
They do some kind of different things. They invited us to come tell.
Oh, great.
So we're doing story.
Okay.
it'll be a mixed audience.
Oh, for himself.
It'll be a mixed audience, so I don't think the stories will be quite as exciting as they were tonight, but we'll look forward to it. So that's on the 20th, and then don't forget, Ingrid is going to be telling on April 11th right here. Please invite your friends. We've got some posters which we can give to you if you'd like to hand out a few. Please invite as many people as you can. We can actually get about 25 or 30 people in this room easily, and we hope to do that since she's coming. So that's April 11th.
She's such a great fellow.
Yeah. Yeah, almost as good as the rest of you. So, so we've got new tellers, we've got semi-professional tellers, and we've got professional tellers too. So everybody's welcome. And once again, thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
And please look at southsoundstory.org because Mitch has all of our events on there and a lot of other information. Is there anything else before we call it a night? Okay, people are heading over to the Tap House
Yeah.
for
Pizza.
cold refreshments and pizzas. So please come on over and join us.